And the Duluth Economic Development
Duluth Mayor Gary Doty laid out some frightening statistics about the Northland's troubled youth during his State of the City address. He also laid out what he plans to do about it. In his proposals for the coming year, Doty called for a collaborative effort by the county, school system, and the city to develop a pilot program to assist children in need, expand youth services, housing, and security, and to acquire even more county funding for preventative programs. During his speech, Doty also commended one such preventative program, the Neighborhood Youth Services.
There's always something for you to do when you come here. You ain't always left out. You can play all sorts of fun activities.
Every day after school, children aged 6 to 17 can come here to the Central Hillside Community Center in Duluth for fun and friendship. Organizers say without a place to go, many of these kids would be out on the streets.
Street life's tough, and a lot of difficult things are happening out there now. So the idea is to give them something positive to do, and many children don't have those alternatives.
Richard Quigley, CEO of Woodland Hills, a place for troubled teens, says the after-school program has shown early signs of success and is excited by the city's commitment to area youth.
We've worked with the police department, city planning, Parks and Rec, and the mayor's office. And what's really refreshing about it is they're all working off the same page.
For Quigley, a veteran in the field of counseling troubled youth, he says the call for action could not have come at a better time.
Deterioration is happening around the country in cities of the size of Duluth. And increases in assaults, increases in children carrying guns, increases in drug abuse are happening in cities this size and smaller. And to some degree it's happening here. We've got to do something to prevent it.
Doty only hopes the Minnesota legislature will take that same attitude when he goes before them asking for additional funding for his proposals. In Duluth, Amy Rutledge, News 6.
For special prizes at all First Bank Duluth locations.
One of the things that I appreciate about this effort is that the activities that are focusing on families, families can do things together, go places together, and it's focusing on children's activities, those things that are so very important to our community.
The mushers like the race. We like Duluth. We like the way the race is run. We'd like to see more money in the race. That's mushers' viewpoint always, get the purse bigger. But I think the Bear Grease is under sound guidance. It's a great race. It's probably the best known race in the lower 48.
But there are a pair of co-executive directors who direct our state.
Well, I think that this is just a statement to the general public how many of us believe that this should be stopped, like last week or 2 years ago.
Back. You go back. Yeah. Say, Bob. They're all good. Thanks, Scott. Yep. Look at that little dog. What an incredible dog.
One thing about Greg's team is they're veterans, and the dogs that he has, we've trained on this trail and they've been here before, and it really isn't going to matter much if they can see or not. As long as there's some trail, they'll get there.
Okay. Is it going to be
I went to school, and then there was no school, so I went home. And then I went snowboarding.
In 1915, the sound of a train whistle was right at home in Duluth, as was the hiss of a coal-fired steam engine. For the 20 volunteers who spent 4 years bringing life to old engine number 14, today was a major victory.
It's very exciting to run it in the wintertime. Our crews here worked on steam engines in the wintertime many years ago. But people my age and younger have very little experience with steam in the wintertime, so it'll be fun.
For the next 4 weeks, maybe longer, the Lake Superior Transportation Museum's coal-fired steam engine will be used as a prop in Iron Will, the motion picture being filmed in the Northland. The challenge for its crew will be to keep it running round the clock.
The biggest problem is making sure some things don't freeze before we get it hot.
Once engine 14 is fired up to speed, volunteers will work filling its belly with coal and monitoring its steam gauges.
It has to be tended 24 hours a day because you can't just turn it on and turn it off like a modern machine. So we have to have people on it 24 hours a day making sure that it has coal and water.
Tomorrow morning, Engine 14, along with several cars, will leave the depot for a trial run to and from the movie set in West Duluth. Once on the job, it'll do double duty as a player in the film and as a warming room for actors.
John Bear's Sled Dog Marathon.
Thank you, Greg. Here he is. Here is your champion, Greg Swingley. Congratulations, Greg. Two-time champion. Are now very
It's important to me because what Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. did for the society and the impact that he had in all people of color, I think is important. And sometimes we forget that it's not an African American or a black celebration. I think it's a celebration for all people of color.
On matinee, regular evening, a late night session.
We do expect our client, our customer base to grow. Basically, we're trying to compete with the other Indian gaming casinos in Las Vegas and Atlantic City and make this place more marketable and habitable and enjoyable for our customers.
And do you expect to be successful at that?
Actually, business has been steady throughout the past few years, and
Many steel manufacturers are operating mini-mills, small, efficient operations to produce steel at a much lower cost than conventional integrated plants. And those mills are buying the least expensive, highest quality raw materials possible. Today, those materials are coming from foreign mines.
Currently, when you look at the economics of high-quality ore in other parts of the world, lower energy costs, and facilities that can be built at much lower capital costs than they can in the United States, I would say it's more likely that this material will come from offshore.
Minnesota mines across the Iron Range are struggling to control costs and stabilize a precarious economic balance, but many improvements are still needed.
We have to continue in that effort. Capital dollars are very difficult for this industry to come by to reinvest in those types of modern equipment that we need to be able to compete from a quality and cost standpoint in that international marketplace.
Schrader says the integrated steelmakers who have high stakes in Minnesota mines will be forced to adapt to changing technology.
I believe that many of the integrated producers will have to go to some form of mini mill concept themselves if they're going to be able to compete with the mini mills as they're growing rapidly.
For now, it remains less expensive to ship raw materials from foreign sources than from the Iron Range to the lower lakes. If that situation continues, the plight of Minnesota's mining industry is likely to continue. In Duluth, Derek Hines, News 6.
There are sufficient doubts and sufficient gaps in the data in this matter to suggest that the better part of valor would indeed be discretion and that the permit probably ought to be denied.
Expertise in this area. Also,
And those I submitted to you there. The life total suspended solid is 30 milligrams per liter.
during the time of sensitive balance of organisms and their demand for oxygen will more than likely tip the balance towards the death and destruction of many fish.
The really critical thing is the balance between population and the economic capacity to provide for a reasonable and good life. And if the economy can provide a good life for fewer people, that isn't all bad.
And that's why our social service costs are so much higher on a percentage basis than the rest of the state too, is because we have.
They might be. Poverty is one of those complex measures.
From police officers to educators, public employees make up a large percentage of the workforce here in northeastern Minnesota, and now they're being asked to make what the state considers a small sacrifice to help balance the budget, give up a pay raise for 1 year.
I think what we're looking at is maybe in the public sector, taking a step that has been taken in the private sector for the past 10 years.
But union officials say the pay freeze is an unfair burden.
We have a $769 million budget shortfall, and his proposal says that those public employees, the most of whom are making between $12,000 and $26,000 a year, are the people who ought to bear the brunt of this shortfall. What happened to the proposition of raising income tax, raising taxes on those people who make over $100,000 a year?
Mary Rosenthal is a librarian for the city of Duluth. She's concerned that the new proposal could affect future contract negotiations. While the pay freeze is not mandatory, Carlson will not increase local government aid to cover pay raises. So if counties and cities don't have the monies and have to raise taxes to get it, the issue would then be put to a vote.
They ought to know what is happening with public employee salaries. Some 75–80% of what local governments spend is in salary and compensation areas. Asking the public to have a voice.
But it's the DFL-dominated legislature that will be the first to vote on whether this plan becomes reality. In Duluth, Amy Rutledge, News 6.
When Ken and Cheryl heard the bad news about Sears on the TV news, they didn't think it would affect them. But when they got a fax from company headquarters, they knew the worst.
We're still in shock. We don't know what we're going to do. We don't know when we're closing. The way it sounds, there won't be nothing done for 90 days. By the end of the year, all catalog stores will be closed.
The news came as all the more of a shock since the Mills-Ark store had been doing so well. Ken and Cheryl say business has never been better, and customers we talked with in the store say the closing will make it very difficult for them.
Because I will miss it because myself, I don't get to Duluth, I don't drive. Maybe once a year I get down there with a friend or family, you know.
One customer knows firsthand what the Mills-Arks are going through.
It is, they say lightning doesn't strike twice in the same place, but it sure has in Moose Lake. I used to own the Montgomery Ward's catalog store, and 6 years ago they did the same thing to us.
Guile Nelson still has another 6 years to go to pay off his loans for his Montgomery Ward's catalog business. Ken and Cheryl, too, will have loans and face a very uncertain future.
It's terrible. You know, both of us, we bought the business 4 years ago thinking that this is what we're going to do. And all of a sudden, we just got it taken away from us.
I'm getting that at age. You know, it's going to be real hard for me to find a job. It's real scary.
Ken and Cheryl haven't been told yet exactly when their store will be closed, but they do want their customers to know that all orders placed will be filled through 1993, and all Sears warranties will be guaranteed. At the Moose Lake Sears catalog store, Barbara Riles, News 6.
No, I shot 3.